We're gonna go ahead and get, and they can join in. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. So this is the workshop number 3 in financial shalom, getting peace, coming to being at peace with our finances. So I put a different Dave Ramsey quote up here this week. It's live like no one else now, so you can live like no one else later. So putting a lot of this into practice is not what we learn from the world. You know, they want you to run up lots of debt, buy everything now, you deserve it, you deserve this, you deserve that, and all that. So we're not going to live like that now. But because we don't live like that now, later on in life, we can live very different lives as well, much, much better lives. Okay, so follow up on budgeting. So a little scripture here, maybe not the most direct application, but in 1 Corinthians 16, verses 1 through 2, Paul's writing and says, "Now about the collection for the Lord's people, do what I told the Galatian churches to do. On the first day of every week, each one of you should set aside a sum of money in keeping with your income, saving it up so that when I come, no collections will have to be made." In keeping with your income. So, of course, he's reminding them that their contribution should be in keeping with their income. But that's true of all of our expenses. That's what budgeting is all about, is keeping our expenses, keeping them within our income. We finished last week talking about budgeting and talking about bringing the budget into balance so that our income minus expenses and savings is greater than or equal to 0. And that can be difficult. That's challenging. That can be a challenging thing. And people will look at that budget, and there's 2 ways you can go to get that number up to positive. You can increase your income, or you can decrease your expenses. A lot of times when people are looking at their finances, one of the first things they think of is, oh, how can I make more money? How can I get some more money? And they try to do things that bring in more income. And it's okay. You can do that. It all depends on your personal situation. But generally, increasing income in the short term takes a big toll. It's a big cost. So you could work overtime. You know, there's a reason they pay you more for overtime, because the more you work in that, those more hours you give, the more it drains from you. It's not a one-to-one effect. It starts to become more than one-to-one. So you start losing more of your energy, of doing the things you want to do, time with family, time for God, those kinds of things. It costs you more than what you're actually making. For a short term, short period of time, could be totally fine, could be totally worth it. Again, depends on your situation. Getting a second job. Again, you're getting a second job, usually it's not going to pay as well as your main job. But it's going to take hours, it's going to take time, it's going to take effort, it's going to be draining. You can do it. Again, depends on your situation. Maybe, if it's a married couple, maybe one is only working a part-time job now. And so getting another part-time job is okay, or just, again, depends on your individual circumstances. But usually, if you're already, especially if you're already at kind of your capacity doing regular work, adding more takes away more than you get. So now, increasing income in the long term, that's what we should strive for. That comes from making improvements to yourself, education, skills, learning new things, growing in your job, in your position, things like that. So increasing income is really more for the long term. It's usually easier in the short term to cut expenses. But we got to start them young. We got to start them managing their finances while they're young. So especially they got to keep an eye on their parents, make sure that their parents don't waste money because they want to inherit it. So usually in the short term, it's easier to cut expenses. And yes, it is painful to bring your budget into balance. And that's why we keep going back to lesson number 1, contentment and gratitude. Finding out what you really need to be content, how little, and so being able to make those cuts. And then I also had, I didn't put it up here, but I just referenced it, but I'll read it. Hebrews 12, verse 11. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace, shalom, for those who have been trained by it. So bringing the budget into balance, usually best to cut expenses. Increasing income is an option, but just remember there's some cost involved with that as well. Okay, so now we're going to go on. So this week we're going to talk about tracking to the budget. So making a budget, creating a budget isn't the end. It's just the beginning. What really makes it successful, what really makes financial management successful is then tracking according to that budget. So we're going to talk about tracking to the budget. We're going to talk about ways to decrease expenses. Just some general, almost more like proverb type things. Just looking at things, some ideas, concepts, all that, just to give some suggestions, ways to look at. And then the third thing we're going to do today is look at some of the long-term items that are good to start thinking about now and just working towards that. But so first of all, tracking to the budget. This is the hard work. Who here likes to clean? Does anyone here like to clean? And even if we have one of those weird people that actually do like to clean, there are some I know. How about the toilet? How many people like to clean the toilet? Anyone? you like spraying the blue stuff, That's kind of fun. It's like, yeah, and then but you got to get out that scrub brush and all. Who likes clean? But what happens? What happens if you don't do it? What happens? Just at cleaning in general. What happens if you don't do it? Things get dirty, messy, sticky, goopy. And let's talk about the toilet. You don't clean the toilet, and that is going to be disgusting. That's just awful mess. Well, keep I've been there. So tracking to the budget, it's like that. It's like cleaning. You don't really want to do it. You don't look forward to it. It's not what excites you, but it has to be done. And if it's not done, that's the reason most people's finances are in a mess. They're like that toilet that doesn't get cleaned. It's a mess. So it's a necessary task. It's part of managing your household. It's just the same as cleaning, mowing the lawn, taking out the trash. All these things that need to be done to keep things in order, that aren't necessarily things we like to do. It's the same with our finances. It keeps our finances in order. And when it becomes part of your routine, it really only takes a few minutes a day. It doesn't take a long time. If you let it go and then you try and come back and try and figure everything out and all that, then it takes a lot and it's a major hassle. But if you do it daily, it's just a few minutes. So when we talked about different formats for budgeting last week, one of the first ones we talked about was a spreadsheet. So that is the downside of the spreadsheet. I love spreadsheets. They're very flexible, great for budgeting, developing your budget, and seeing the numbers change as you increase and decrease and all that. The downside is that when you're tracking to it, it is manual. You have to do things like when you pay a bill, if you write a check, put that in there. Now, a lot of times you've got to keep receipts. When you go to the store, when you go out to eat, which you don't do that often, but when you do these things, you got to keep receipts, and then remember to enter all those things into it. You use your online banking transactions. So you go to your online bank account and you look, and so you see the transactions there. So that's a way of double checking, make sure that you didn't miss something. Especially again, husbands and wives. This can be a major area of conflict. When someone spends something and forgets to turn in their receipt or keep the receipt or let the other person know, and so then all of a sudden you see this thing on the bank account, like, where did that come from? So it is takes a little bit more work to do. A lot of times from the bank, when you look at your listing, you can actually export that into a spreadsheet type format, like a CSV type format. So you can actually export that and then use that again in your spreadsheet. I'm working. I didn't get it finished for today. Hopefully I'll get it finished early next week and can send that out to the group. But I am working on just the ultimate budgeting and tracking spreadsheet. So what this is going to do is you're going to start out. You have in the main tab here, so you can do your budgeting and do it by month. You put all the things in by month and all that. Of course, do your budgeting, and what it's going to do is, what you put in the month is automatically going to appear on the tab for that month. So you put something in for January, put your salary for like $1,000, okay? And then you go to the January tab, and there it is. It's in there now. So it'll be So basically, you just put in the budget. It'll all be in there, and then you just go to that month, and your budget for that month will be there. And then all you have to do is keep track of the actuals, and it will show you your difference there. So I'm working on that, and again, we'll send that out. And who knows? I might license it and sell it. We'll see. We'll see. But not to this group. This group gets it for free. Let's see. Okay, I got to get to the slideshow here. Back here. Okay. So also, when you use the spreadsheet, if you have kind of your last month's ending balance, bank balance, and then you can set it up so that your pluses and minuses, the total, your running total, keeps that number. You can always have that as a quick check with your bank's account and your bank statement to make sure that you're reconciled. So again, that what you have for how much money you think you should have agrees with what the bank says how much money you have. You want those two to be in agreement. If you think you don't have as much money as the bank says you have, that can be okay. That's a nice little bonus. But if you think you got more money than the bank says you have, that can be trouble. Okay, so now when you use a program or an app that automatically downloads from your bank, that's the easiest. Again, I use Quicken. Unfortunately, it's a subscription type thing, but it works really well. There are those other ones that I talked about last week. There are more that you can look into. But again, if you download it, that's easy. You still have to do some work, though, because you'll go and you'll find it might not put it in the right category. Sometimes when you get it in from a merchant, on there, it's a little bit of gibberish in there. I mean, it'll have the merchant name, so you can figure it out, but it won't automatically put it in the right category. You have to go through and check those things. Same thing if you're using, again, some banks in their online banking have budgeting and even tracking capabilities. So it's even more automatic. You don't even have to download it. It's right there. But again, you're going to have to go in and make sure that it puts things in the right categories for managing your budget. So those make it easier, but it still requires some work. So there's a thing that's called the envelope method. I'm going to talk about that for a little bit. Used to be more popular back before we were able to pay for everything with our phones and Venmos and cards and all these things, when we actually used cash more. So what the envelope method is for all of your budget areas, you basically have an envelope for your budget area, and you put cash in there. So the amount of cash that you budget for that thing. Now, you don't have to do that with all of your categories, but where it's most helpful is especially a lot of the variable ones like allowance, groceries, eating out, a lot of these things where you actually can use cash. The benefit of it, there's a couple benefits. One is it's a lot more tangible. It's like you go someplace and you tap the card, you go to my favorite example, Starbucks, You go in there, it's like, oh, pumpkin spice latte is out. Oh yeah, click, click. Do you want to leave a tip? Oh yeah, sure, ping, you know. And it's like, it's free, right? You just tap the card, and you just tap the card, and they give it to you. It's amazing. It's a miracle. It's free. You know what? It is a lot different when you've got actual cash in your hand, and it's like, wait a second, you mean that drink is going to cost me $6? And you want a tip for boiling the water? You know, it's like, you know, so you're a little bit more hesitant to it. So again, it makes it tangible. Which again, the idea is not to not spend money. The idea is to spend money purposefully, intentionally, on the things that give you the most value for that money, for each dollar you spend. The other strength of using envelopes in this kind of situation is when you have a situation where you're going to go over budget in one category. Yeah, you go out to dinner or something like that, and it costs a little bit more than you thought, and all that, and so the cash has to come from somewhere. The money has to come from somewhere. It doesn't just materialize. And so it's like, okay, well, I'm going to take $5 out of my allowance to add to that. I'm going to take some money out of this. So you're rebalancing kind of your budget according to what you're actually spending. You're thinking about it. It's like, okay, you know what? It's worth it to me. I'd rather we go out for this nice dinner. You know, encourage your spouse. You know, you can make sure you tell Cayman this. He's got to, you know, take you out, encourage you, all those things, and that's important. And it's like, you know what? That's worth, you know, me not, you know, buying lunch one day this week. You know, maybe you have a thing where you take your lunch most days, but one day a week you buy lunch. And it's like, you know what? I'm not going to buy lunch this week. I'm going to move it from that envelope to that envelope, and we're going to have a nice date. So again, and at the end of the week, what do you remember? You don't remember the lunch that you didn't buy. You remember the date that you had, the nice time. So again, you're spending money on that which is most important to you, that's most valuable. So envelope method, again, don't have to use it for everything, but it's great for a lot of the variable expenses, you know, shopping, groceries, allowance, you know, coffee, lunches, these kinds of things. Makes it very tangible and makes it easy to rebalance and move things around to make sure that you're spending the money on what you really want. Your budget is not set in stone. Moses did not bring it down on tablets from Mount Sinai. It is not a straitjacket. Your budget doesn't control you. You do not serve your budget. Your budget serves you. Your budget is your tool. It is a way to, again, make sure that your spending is purposeful and you're getting the most out of it. And your budget is just an estimate. It's a guess. This is what you think, you know, you're going to spend. This is what you kind of intend to spend. And you're setting your budget up maybe months in advance of when that month actually arrives. But it's important, when you're tracking to budget, if you go over in a category, then it must come from another category. You've got to maintain that balance. So if you spend more in one category than you planned, then another category has to be reduced. And that's okay. It's not like oh no, we went over budget in groceries this month because we bought some of that stuff. Oh no, we've broken the law. We violated the budget law. We went over budget in one of our categories. No, that's fine. It's okay, as long as you're deciding to do what's of most value to you, but then you do have to rebalance it. So let's just look at we'll just do a little kind of example here. So you're going through this month. This is your budget. Don't get too wigged out by the numbers. I just threw in kind of random numbers. I'm not saying you only have $200 a month for groceries or things like that. So just wanted to put these in here. So you got this example. Now, haircut. Probably a guy's haircut. It's only $40. It's not the, and but you were going to go out later that day, and so in addition to the haircut, you had them do the shampoo and a little bit of styling. I see Daniel's had that done recently. so it's like okay, but that costs a little bit more than normal. Normally every month you just go in, get the haircut, and there you go. But this time they did a little bit extra. and then there was your spouse was feeling a little bit down, and you thought, you know what, let's go out for a nice dinner or something like that. And so you went over in your entertainment budget by $20. Okay, so again, it's nice. You can format the spreadsheet so that shows up in nice red. It's like, okay, so we're over in a couple categories. That has to come from somewhere. Well, it's, what? Household goods this month, we're pretty well stocked up on towels and cleaning supplies and things like that. We're not going to have to spend a lot more there. So, I'm going to reduce that by $10 and put that in the haircut. Magic! It's no longer red. And then for that entertainment, you know what? Oh man, I already spent the $25 on my hobbies. Can't come from there. Clothing, I've got what I need. I don't need any more clothing. I'm going to put. Let's see. I'll take $10 from there too, just in case, because you never know. I might have to get some more socks or something like that. So I'll add that there. Now, what you're not seeing is down here at the bottom, because this screen isn't as big as the other. But the bottom line. That bottom line number at the bottom of your budget, where it shows you the income minus expenses, you gotta keep that at zero. So when you're moving things around, if you move the wrong amounts around, it'll show that. So so I can't just say, well, okay, I need to come up with another $10 here. So I got to come up with another $10 here. That moves that red. But now we have a minus 10 at the bottom. So it's like, okay, got to take something else down $10. All right, I gotta give up $10 of allowance money. Don't get to chew as much gum, this month. Hopefully people won't get offended by my breath and all that. So, but you're doing this because, you're seeing. We spent more money than we planned here for this reason, and it was important. It would also show you that, we spent more money there than we planned, and I didn't even realize that. That's not good. If we spent money and I don't even know what we got for it, do we even benefit from it? Okay, that's going to be something to look at. So again, makes you aware, and I don't know why it hides these things every time. Makes you more aware of your spending and allows you to make sure that you are spending it on what is important to you. As I've said before, I've got nothing against spending money, but I got a big problem with wasting money. And that's what it is for budgeting and tracking according to your budget. Like I said, in our very first session, the hard part is not the math or the mechanics. The hard part is the attitude, perspective, and behavior. And that's why we spent a whole session just talking about things like contentment and gratitude. Because if we get that behavior right, if we get that right, the mechanics are actually pretty simple. The math is easy. Okay, so let's go on. We're going to go on now and talk about ways to reduce expenses. So these are just some ideas and some generalities. These are things that I've either, many or most, done myself, probably all of them. I'll have to see if there's any. I'll call out if there's only ones that I haven't done that I just heard about. But these are things that I've found are effective at reducing expenses, saving money with very little impact on actually what your life and what you're getting out of it. But also, don't stop here. These are good places to start. Do some research. I've seen an email or two recently from just places that are like, oh, top 10 ways to reduce expenses or things like that. Or you have them on websites. You'll have them around. You can ask ChatGPT, I assume. But yeah, just find ways of reducing expenses and share with each other. Talk with each other. Say like, hey, I just found this, and it's saving me $50 a month. It's like, oh, great, maybe I should give that a try. Okay, so some of the most obvious ones. First of all, what things make sense to buy in bulk? Not everything does. It doesn't make sense to buy everything in bulk, but there's a lot of things that you're gonna use it eventually. You get the 48 roll pack of toilet paper, and you know what? Eventually, you're going to use it. Paper towels. You get your laundry detergent and the big things and all. There's a lot of things where buying in bulk is much cheaper. Save a lot of money with that. So you get your Sam's, your Costco membership, and all that, and it pays for itself usually pretty quickly. So again, look around. Some things don't. Unless you make lots of salads, a lot of times fruit and vegetables, aren't that great from some of the bulk places because they can go bad quickly. But you make lots of salads, lots of smoothies, things like that. Maybe it works for you. But again, you gotta test this and tailor it to your own personal lifestyle and things like that. So what makes sense to buy in bulk? What makes sense to buy store brand? You're going down the aisle and you got your choices of spaghetti sauce. Got all these ones. And some of them are by these name brands that you've seen commercials for. And these things make people so happy because they have this brand of spaghetti sauce, and their family, everyone, your whole family will come over for meals and things like that because you have this brand of spaghetti sauce. And it costs more. But you look right next to it, and the store has its brand, and they look the same, and they're probably made in the same factory, in the same place. They're probably really the same thing. So the store brand, much cheaper. So not always, but many times it makes more sense just to buy the store brand rather than the name brand. Because if don't pay a premium for labels or brand names unless they deliver superior value. And there are cases where it's a brand name and it's not just because they advertise and things like that, but they do legitimately deliver higher value. The generic or the store brand equivalent just doesn't work as well. So again, it's not a law, but in general, what makes sense to buy the store brand? Because if it doesn't have a real defined, identifiable additional value, then you're usually just paying for their advertising campaign and their stockholders. Now you can be one of their stockholders and pay yourself, but really you're just paying extra money and not getting anything for it. You've heard this from me before. Make your own lunch. It can be as simple as buying. If you actually go to an office or someplace, buying some cold cuts, some bread, making a sandwich. There you go. Of course, if you work from home, it's even easier because you can go out to your kitchen and actually heat something up. But make your own lunch. Cook for yourself. Buying food if you're buying something where someone's done that work for you, then you're going to pay a lot of extra for it. And you go to these places and they're all asking for tips. So you pay for the food, then you pay for them to do it, to cook it, to prepare it. Then you pay the tax, not just on the food, but on what they did, and then you get to tip them as well. So cook for yourself. brew your own coffee, make your own tea, make your own smoothies. Doing these things are actually, getting, more involved with making the stuff that you consume is actually very healthy for you mentally. So, and very healthy for your pocketbook, because those things get charged on a high premium. Now, it's okay to eat out. It's okay to get coffee out, but shouldn't be your routine. It's a special event, and usually you want to do it's something with others. Now you can, next fall comes. Yes, you can treat yourself to a pumpkin spice latte if that's your thing, and have it all by yourself. That's okay. You can have a special time. You can have a date with God and go someplace and hang out with Him. But a lot of times it's like you're going out for coffee because you're with someone, and it's more about that event and the atmosphere and what you're doing there than it is just buying a cup of coffee or eating out. Last week, I went to Starbucks. I did. I went to Starbucks. I paid for just a regular black coffee, and its price was outrageous. And it was good, though. It was like their 1971 blend, which is a nice, good, dark, full-body roast. Huh? Or so they say. So it's like, so I got that. Yeah, yes, it was an outrageous price, but then Patricia and we went out. We were actually on the little patio there in the sun, relaxing with our coffee and talking and just sharing things and all that. So, was the coffee worth it? No. Was the time with Patricia worth it? Yes. Do I remember the coffee? Vaguely, only because I knew I had to talk about it today. Do I remember the time with Patricia? Yes. What was I really paying for? The time with Patricia. And that was worth it. So yeah, so it's fine to do these things, but when you do them, it's special. It's a treat. And the more and more you limit it to that, the more special they even become. Okay, get the most out of everything you buy. And this is actually part of your buying decision-making process. So looking for things that are very versatile, that you're going to use many, many times, especially as the price goes up. You got to take an honest look at it and say, like, how much am I really going to use this? It's not on here, but a practice I have is, like, sometimes if I'm looking to buy something, I'll research, look at it, I'll have it there. It might even be on like Amazon, be like saying like, the button is flashing, buy now, buy me now, buy now, one click, buy now. I'll look at it and I'll say like, okay, and I'll walk away. And I'll just not buy it then. I'll walk away. And then, a day later, now obviously this isn't an urgent purchase, a day or two later, comes back to me again, what? I really think that would be a good thing to do. Look at it again and say like, okay, is this really something I'm going to, and then I might even walk away again. And if I'm thinking between those times, if I'm thinking, of all the times, wow, I could really use that here. Oh, I could use that there. I could use it. And start realizing all the ways that I can use that. It's like, okay, I'm going to get more than my money's worth out of that. That's what you're always searching for. You're searching to get more than your money's worth out of it. So when you're buying things, how much are you going to get out of it? How long is it going to last? What are the multiple uses that can be made out of it? You're not always, sometimes you're going to get something and use it once or twice, and that was it. Okay, oops, that was a mistake. It happens. But if you're at least taking the time to evaluate that, more often than not, you're going to get things that you are going to use that over and over and over again until it is gasping its dying breath. It has no more to give. You have used it for every penny out of it. Speaking of which, in the long run, generally, maintenance is cheaper than repair or replacing. Usually we think about this with cars. So again, with cars, keeping it maintained. The oil changes, the filter changes, these kinds of things. Um, Keeping it well maintained is cheaper than it breaking down, needing repair. But that also applies to other things, appliances, computers, just things around the house. You're just keeping them clean, keeping them working well. Some things might need to be oiled, lubricated, things like that to keep working well. Keeping things working well, again, saves a lot of money in the long run because A, it doesn't need to be repaired, it lasts longer, and then you don't have to spend money buying something before it's time. You get a couple more years out of your computer, out of your phone, out of appliances, out of these things. That adds up. That is a big savings. Okay, here's another thing. Knowing what you need before you need it. Again, you're not always going to know that. But the most expensive time to buy anything is when you need it right now. Because you just got to pay whatever it is. It's like you're no choice. But if you know what you need before you need it, now you can look around. You can be aware. And then, a sale comes up. There you go. Sales shouldn't make you just suddenly start thinking about buying something. You should already have planned to buy it, and then when the sale comes up, it just gives you the opportunity to save some money buying something that you were going to buy anyway. So, or there's promotions or something like that. So, like tires. Tires are wearing down. They're getting. You went at your last inspection. They measure them like, oh, there's like about a 1/32 of an inch of tread left there before, so it's like you need them, but you don't need them like right away. They're still good. So you can be aware. You can be looking around, and then Goodyear's having a sale, or so and so is having a sale, or having a special. Then you can buy it. I need a new computer. I love my computer, but it's not up to spec for Windows 11, and they don't support Windows 10 anymore and all that stuff. So I need to buy a new computer. But I got, they're doing updates and things until next October or November, I think. So sometime this year, I need to buy a new computer. Not today, hopefully. Please keep working. Please keep working. But so that's one that, again, I can look around. I can shop. I can be aware of things. And it's like, so is having Christmas in July. Big discounts. Oh, there I go. Now I can buy. I'm buying something that I already knew I had to buy, but I get to determine the timing of it so that I save the most money. So also, kind of alluded to this a little bit before, the cheapest thing isn't always being the most frugal. Paying a little extra for value can save money in the long run. So I should have actually drawn this out in a diagram, that what I call the value curve. So what it is in a product category, usually, if you take the very cheapest thing, cheapest one down here, you got this much cost, this much value. And then you take the most expensive one, that's way over here. You got this much cost and this much value. It's not a straight line between the two. It's generally a curve like that. And so what that means is when you start spending just a little bit more than that cheapest product, the cheapest one in the category, the value increases at a much higher rate until you'll get to a point where now each amount that you're spending more produces less and less additional value until you start getting out into the luxury area where the additional costs, the additional amount of money you're spending produces almost no additional real value except for like status, and then you can show off your watch or your whatever and all that. So it's just more status. So sometimes it's not the cheapest thing in that product category, but there's a little bit more. So looking for that, it's okay to spend a little bit more on something that could last, 2 or 3 times longer, perform better, get more effective than that cheap thing. Saving money, reducing expenses isn't just about buying the cheapest thing. So pay attention to that value, the amount of value that you're getting from it. Okay, I'm going to teach you one of the most powerful. This is kind of, Ramsey might be mad because this is kind of going into mystical incantations. And I don't want to get you too much into involved in any kind of witchcraft or sorcery or things like that. But I do want to teach you one of the most powerful words in the English language. This incantation can save you just thousands and thousands of dollars. The word of power is no. No. No is such an incredibly powerful word. When you're in the store and it's like you see that, and like, oh, look at that, and it's like, no. Someone's trying to sell you something. Someone knocks on your door. Oh, you look like you could use some lawn care or new gutters or something like that. Sorry, Crawford. Leaf filter or whatever. And it's like, you don't have to come up with any reasons. You don't have to explain yourself to them or justify it or anything like that. You say like, no, thank you. No. Well, may I ask you why you don't want to take advantage of this incredible offer? No. No, you can't. Feel how powerful that is. That is such a powerful word. You can use it all the time, and it will keep you from spending money. No. The second most powerful words are not now, or I'll wait. Yeah, that looks great. Yeah, I would like that, but not now. Later on. Okay. And of course, there's many more ways to reduce expenses. Okay, so now I just want to touch on some long-term items, and this is long-term, but it's good to think about these now, and if possible, start acting on them. A lot of these are just going to be general principles, and for some of them, you may want to engage an actual financial planner for your specific situation. Also, there are other people in the church, some that even do this professionally, that you can talk to and get advice and get guidance in these areas. But I'm just going to give you kind of the general principles. I am not a certified financial planner, so take anything I say with a grain of salt. First of all, credit score. Credit scores have become incredibly important in our world today. It is designed to be a measure of how responsible you are with credit. And of course, it was used a lot, and still used a lot, for loans and interest rates. I mean, it will determine if you're getting especially a bigger loan, it'll determine your interest rate or whether or not you'll even get that loan. But more, it'll also determine your auto insurance rate or whether you'll even get auto insurance. It can even be used for approving renting. If you're trying to rent a house, rent an apartment, something like that, they'll even run your credit score. I've even heard of it being used in employment situations for jobs. I actually worked for a property casualty insurer in the early 2000s about when credit scores started getting used for auto insurance. Because what they found is, yes, it's a measure of how responsible you are with credit, but it's actually a really, really good proxy for how responsible you are overall. And so it's getting used more and more for a lot of different things that you wouldn't even think about that they would use credit score for. Now, it's largely based on your payment history. But also has other factors, so like your amount of debt and the length of your credit history. So if you have that, you pay off all those other credit cards and you have that one credit card that you've had for 15 years, that's really good. They love that. They love seeing, okay, they've had this this credit card for 15 years. That boosts it up. Oh, look at all the payments they've made. They never missed a payment on all these other credit cards, all these other loans. They never missed a payment. That boosts it way up. So basically doing these things, there are ways that you can look at that to increase your credit score, and the higher your credit score, the more credit card offers you'll get in the mail, but that's not a good thing. But a lot of other things become cheaper and easier for you. Do you know what yours is? Do you know what your credit score is? There are ways to find it that are free. You can go like Credit Karma and find it for free. You can get on, now the best thing to know is to get on one of the 3 main credit bureaus. Man, I can't remember what they are. I'm blanking on it. TransUnion, Equifax, yeah, and yeah, okay. A lot of times, your bank will actually have it so that you can get their base thing for free. Or if you've get one of those notices where your personal information may have been in a recent security breach, and so they're offering free credit monitoring and an account with this thing, yeah, you use that. You can get in there. So a couple things. So if you're on one of those 3, then you can just go in and get your real-time credit score right then. The other way is it gives you ways of protecting it from in identity theft. Because a lot of times in identity theft, what they want to do is if they get, say, your social security number or something like that, is open up, get a loan or credit card in your name. And so to do that, they need to have a credit score run. And if they have your social security number and information like that, they can do that. Well, on these sites, you can put your credit score thing on a freeze. And that means no one can go in and run your credit score. Because companies will actually do that. They'll kind of even, without your knowledge, they'll even run your credit score, and then they'll start sending you, solicitations and things like that. So when you do apply for a loan or something like that, then you just go onto their account and you thaw it. You either unfreeze it or you can thaw it, which means you can say like, okay, for the make it available for the next 2 days, and then you apply for your loan. They run it, and then it's back frozen again. But that's a great way to safeguard from identity theft. But yeah, so credit score, get on one of these. Look at your bank first. Again, they may have an arrangement already with one of them. Savings. Again, you're gonna get out of debt. We already talked about that. When you get out of debt, you need to start saving. Well, even before then, at work, if your company offers a 401k at work, usually, rule of thumb, unless your life situation just absolutely precludes it, you want to contribute whatever amount is under their matching. So some, used to be they would match like 1-to-1 up to 3%, or now a lot of times it's 50 cents on the dollar or whatever, but a lot of times it's up to 6%. So if you contribute 6% of your salary, they'll match that 50%. That's 3% of your salary for free. That's just free money going into an investment account that's going to grow for many, many years. Some nowadays, it wasn't when I was there, but some now have a Roth option, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, Roth versus traditional. Now, also, so you can set up your own Roth and traditional IRAs, and you should. And you can use, variety of the companies like a Fidelity or a Schwab or something like that. And the reason you want to set up your own is because if you leave a job, when you leave that job, you don't want to leave your 401k there under them. you want to roll it over, take it from there, roll it over, and put it into your own. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is you can actually do that while you're still working for them. So you don't have to wait until you leave. Now, if you're working for a company, you might work for a company and their list of options for investing in your 401k might be huge. And so you got plenty of options, you're fine. Some companies might have very few, and you're not really satisfied with them. You can roll that money over from your 401k to your own IRA, and then your investment options just become ginormous. So that's kind of workplace savings. Now, after you pay off your debt, start saving. You've trained yourself on how to live with less while you've been paying off this debt. So now that you're still living like that, or you can increase you can go out to dinner more, whatever. But a lot of that money that you're paying off on debt, you want to save it. Now your emergency, we already talked about your emergency savings account. Yeah, that should probably be in just a regular bank savings account, easy to access and insured. But with this additional savings, you're probably best off saving it in some kind of after-tax brokerage account. So again, like whatever you use for setting up your IRA, Fidelity, Schwab, you can set up a regular account with them, and you put this money into it. Again, this is where maybe some financial planner can help with just the options about where to invest it. But if you're saving this money now, it's not just like, what are you getting in your savings account right now? A fraction of a percent interest. It says you're not getting much, but you can put it in these accounts, and now that money while you're saving, can earn a lot more. There are tax implications. So again, this is why it's important to get more information, more detail, because there are tax implications and all that. But now you should be saving for vacations, not putting them on your credit card and hoping to pay them off. We're talking in a few minutes about saving for your car. Once your car is paid off, you're maintaining it well, so you want to keep that car 10, 12 years or so. Once it's paid off, keep making that car payment, but instead of to the financial company, make it to yourself and put it in this savings account. So now you're paying it, you're getting the benefit of the investment income on top of that, and now when it's time to replace that car, good chance, we did it many times, you're paying cash for that car. You're not financing it at all. So again, just using this kind of savings for that. A lot of times in this kind of account, you might go a little bit conservative. We used to use like a municipal bond fund because good return and it's tax-free. The money in there is not insured. It's not like an FDIC insured checking or savings account. It has all the market risk that people are experiencing right now this last week. Okay, we're running out of time. Roth versus traditional IRA. Big difference. Traditional is tax deferred, means you pay tax when you take it out. Roth is after tax, means you pay the tax when you put it in. If your tax rate when you're working is the same as when you're taking the money out, it doesn't matter. They both come out exactly the same. Where it benefits one way or the other is when your tax rate now is or likely to be different than it is in the future. And so kind of a simple rule, and I'm going to show you the tax brackets in just a minute, but when you're within the 12% tax bracket, so this is a lot for younger people. They're just starting out. They're not making as much money. They're in the lower tax bracket. When you're within the 12% bracket, then you contribute to a Roth. That money is only costing you 12% in taxes. And then later on in life, when you retire and taking out, if you're at the higher tax level, it would have cost you 22% when you take it out. So basically a 10% increase in what your money is worth. Now, if you're in the 22% or higher tax bracket, you're probably more likely to put it in a traditional IRA because your future tax bracket is likely to be, that or lower. Again, these are very kind of simple rules of thumb. You're going to have to kind of figure out where your split is. And the tax brackets change every year. So just very quickly here. This is this year's tax brackets. And remember, this is taxable income, not your salary. So, it's not if a married couple is making $100,000 a year that every dollar after that is taxed at 22%. I forget what the standard deduction is it like 30,000? So if you're making 130,000, or let's say you're making 90,000. No, I'm doing this wrong. You're making 120,000. You take that standard deduction off, your taxable income is only 90,000. So you're still within that 12% tax bracket for another $10,000. So any money that you're able to put over, again, is going to be just at that lower tax rate. Same for a single. Again, it's taxable income. When you do your taxes this year, if you haven't done them already, if you have done them, go look at them. What was your taxable income this year? That determines what your marginal tax rate is. Marginal meaning it's what every additional dollar is taxed at. And so that's basically, you want to put money in a Roth when your money is cheaper. You want to put money in a traditional IRA when your money is more expensive. And that's really all that rate means, is whether your money is cheaper or more expensive. And they change every year. Okay, talked about saving for cars, education for kids, 529 plans, something to look at. If you're going to do that, it's good to start early, even with just a little amount. Just start it, because the age of the account actually gives some benefits. Life insurance, does your employer offer it? If they offer it, definitely take it. But it's also good to have your own life insurance. And term life insurance is not expensive. So it's great to cover you in case you change jobs and you're without life insurance for a while. It gives you some extra life insurance, especially to carry through, like kids' college years, things like that. So term life insurance is actually pretty cheap. A few $100s can get you like $500,000 of coverage. So the purpose of wealth. So we're closing out here. Did you guys need to leave because it's past 12? Yeah. So the purpose of wealth, 1 Timothy 6:17 through 19. Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. We build wealth not for this world, but for the next. And we use it in this world to advance God's kingdom. The psalm that I always share, many are asking, who can show us anything good? Let the light of your face shine on us, Lord. You have put more joy in my heart than they have when their grain and new wine abound. I will both lie down and sleep in peace. Shalom. For you alone, Lord, make me live in safety. And I hope you all experience financial shalom.